DC's Blue Beetle is finally hitting cinemas, and thanks to the team over at Warner Brothers Pictures Australia, I had the chance to check the movie out a few days early. Here are my thoughts. Recent college grad Jaime Reyes returns home full of aspirations for his future. As he searches to find his purpose in the world, fate intervenes when Jaime unexpectedly finds himself in possession of an ancient relic of alien biotechnology, the Scarab. When the Scarab suddenly chooses Jaime to be its symbiotic host, he is bestowed with an incredible suit of armor capable of extraordinary and unpredictable powers, as he becomes the superhero Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle is the latest superhero flick from DC. At the moment, it's maybe a little bit confusing as to where this kind of fits franchise-wise. This was originally built as an installment in the DCEU, which is now defunct. It's also been said to be instead now one of the early installments of the new DCU. But the placement just kind of feels a little bit random when you watch the movie. I think it almost feels like it's a bit of a standalone thing. Regardless though, this is the first appearance of Blue Beetle in live action on the big screen. This is a character that I'm not very familiar with. I've considered myself someone who's, been a DC fan for pretty much all of my life, but some of these more kind of obscure characters I'm not incredibly well acquainted with. I understand that this character's been in like animated series and video games and stuff of late, but I feel like this is a character that is just sort of not to the level of like your Batmans, your Supermans, your Wonder Womans, etc, etc. So for me, this was actually really exciting to jump into this and explore the origins of a character who I knew very, very little about. And I gotta say, this is actually a really decent superhero origin flick, and this is coming from someone who wasn't entirely interested in the movie from early trailers and stuff. It didn't look that great to me, and I've been really hit and miss with DC over the last few years, so this is a movie that I just kind of went into without a lot of expectations. But look, it is actually really, really quite good. Director Angel Manuel Soto has crafted this really beautifully, I guess, intimate superhero movie, which is something I didn't expect from this. He has imbued this with the Latino culture. Blue Beetle is, of course, a Latino superhero character, and the film brings in the whole family and makes the movie really family-oriented and very culture-oriented, really imbues this kind of sense of belonging and family that is so inherent to the Latino culture, and it really makes the whole identity of this movie kind of feel really intimate and personal. I feel like the movie puts a really beautiful spotlight on culture that we don't really see in these kinds of movies that often. You think of Black Panther, and then that's about it. Now we have this really beautiful spotlight for the Latino culture in the superhero spectrum, and I'd really love to see more like this. I'd love to see more superheroes with, cultural identities at the forefront. I think it really makes for just a really great, enriching experience. As a superhero movie, it does feel a little bit generic in parts. Some parts feel very Iron Man, like there's the very first suit-up scene where the suit comes out of him almost like nanotechnology, but it's kind of like the suit has kind of bonded itself to his biology. So it comes out of his body and then he goes shooting through the roof sort of above the skyline. It feels very much Iron Man 1. The kind of battles between Blue Beetle and the villains in this movie, they're almost big kind of mechas. It all feels very Iron Man as well. There's a lot of very derivative stuff in here, but it also does a lot of stuff that I feel like we haven't seen in a superhero movie, or is very rare to see in one of these kind of superhero flicks. The way that the movie just kind of grounds itself, it's a very grounded film. It feels very intimate and very just isolated. There are a few references here and there to other DC like characters and to Gotham City and to Batman and whatever else, but it does kind of feel like its own sort of bottle movie. It feels very, very isolated from the rest, and like I said at the beginning, you don't really quite know where this fits in what universe or whatever at the moment, but it doesn't matter because this movie just feels like a really great sort of individual superhero origin movie, and I think they've done a really great service to the characters and to the performers who are in this movie as well, to kind of strip back and do something that we don't see a lot of recently, particularly where, we're surrounded by these big, bombastic, huge, explosive superhero blockbusters. It's really nice to kind of get one of these smaller ones again that we used to get, you know, back in the 2000s or the very early days of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where you had these kind of smaller, isolated stories. And it's really refreshing to kind of get that here. And I think if this is going to be the first, if this is going to be like one of the jumping off points for the new DC Universe, it's a really, really great way to do it, because we need to strip back, we need to see these characters as just kind of individual people before we then branch off and try to do things that are just way too big. Look, I thought it was a decent movie. I had a lot of fun. I've actually seen the movie twice now. I saw the movie maybe 2 months ago when I interviewed director Angel Manuel Soto. You can see my interview with him linked above or at the end of the video. And I saw it again a couple of days ago for the fan screening here in Melbourne just before the movie opened in Australia. And I gotta say, it holds up on second viewing. I really, really enjoyed myself with this movie both times. It is fun. It is also very, very, very funny. There's a lot of hilarious moments in here. The writing is superb, and it's just everything that I want from a superhero movie, where it's just sort of like, not exactly turn your brain off. There's a lot of stuff to kind of think about here and to kind of absorb and to learn and, you know, just have a good fun time watching good action sequences, fun comedy, really great performances too. With all that said, I'll be giving DC's Blue Beetle a 3.5 out of 5. And at that, I want to know your thoughts on DC's Blue Beetle. As always, join the conversation down below and let me know your thoughts.